very much for inviting me to participate in this very important initiative. My name is Dr. Elena Chelysheva, and I'm studying cheetahs for 36 years now. But every day is different. And I'm very happy to share what I've learned and what really cheetahs experience and what we have to do to keep them safe on Earth. First of all, I can tell that cheetahs are very adaptable species. You can find them in any type of terrain. For example, in Kalahari Desert, if you look into the left and upper photo, you can see cheetah in the sand. There's no water there. And to survive, cheetahs actually drink urine and blood of their kills, and they eat summer melon, the fruit which contains the water 95%. They perfectly adapt to live in high mountains. Like, for example, in Ethiopia, they're living in the environment which is 4,500 meters over the sea level, and they hunt mountain gazelles and goats, exactly like leopards do. So it's really easy to confuse cheetah for a leopard. They adopt to live in the thick bush, and all over Africa, where bushes are where cheetahs live, they adopt to kill big animals, very slow-moving antelopes, or small things like, for example, hyraxes, rabbit monkeys, and dig-digs. And you can see on the bottom right photo from Iran. There is an Iranian cheetah. They adopt to live in the snow. During the autumn time, they grow very thick and long fur. Cheetah is the fastest mammal on land, and it's built actually for speed, and it's built very similar to racing dogs like greyhounds, but there is a huge difference. Cheetahs are sprinters while dogs are stayers, which means that cheetah can run very fast but for very short time and very short distance. And you can see the difference between the speed in captivity and in the wild. Basically, in captivity, we set up a lower course and the cheetah is just running to catch teddy bear or something like bait, but in the wild, cheetahs following natural prey. That's why the speed is much lower. Also, if we put together racing dog and the cheetah will overtake within seconds, and then it will give up. So the problem, cheetah cannot really run for a long time, and that's what happens. Sometimes lions and hyenas can exhaust cheetahs, and lions pretty often kill even adult cheetahs. Surprisingly, cheetahs cross rivers. They don't avoid water, and sometimes they cross Mara River, which is very wide, I would say, sometimes cross twice a day. And they're equally active during night and day. They can hunt, they mate, they travel. So they perform all types of activities during the absolutely full darkness. And because cheetahs can really climb trees, it's really easy to confuse cheetahs for leopards, especially when they're resting up a tree. But there's a huge difference. Only a leopard can climb a tree with a kill. We'll understand why, because actually local communities very often confuse cheetah and a leopard because of this habit, taking kill up on a tree. Unique, absolutely unique social system in cheetah. Cheetahs can be solitary or they can live in groups. For example, there can be temporary groups. When mother leaves the cubs, they're staying together for approximately from 2 weeks to up to half a year. And amazingly, not only males can form coalitions, which is a lifelong union, but also females can do that. But these unions are temporary. And recently in the Mara, we had a coalition of 2 females. And what is amazing, on the upper right photo, there's a coalition of 5 males. And not all of them are related. This high level of sociality actually helps cheetahs to even adopt cubs. For example, we had 2 females. On the bottom there is a Naritoi, and on top is Masarian. And actually what happened, Naritoi on the bottom and Naserian on the upper photo. Both of them raised cubs, but they spent lots of time in Tanzania. And one day, one female came without cubs and she was sick. And unfortunately, she died. She could not survive. But her sister came in a couple of months with 2 boys, and we were very happy. But there was something different in these cubs. And when I compared the photo, because of the behavior, one male was a little bit bigger, one smaller, one was more brave, and one was more shy. When I looked into the photo, I said, there is something interesting about this family. And I found out that the male who is closer to the mother is actually stepson. It's a son of the sister of Naritoi. While the other one who was very shy, he's on the left on the photo, he's her own son. And watching them was like a soap opera. Every day I was rushing to the field because it's very really unique thing to observe. This high level of sociality actually helped humans to realize that it's easy to tame cheetahs and use for hunting for themselves. And it was very, very, let's say, common royal sport, hunting with cheetahs for people. And by 16th century, all royal courts in Europe, even in Russia, it was all royal courts by 16th century in Russia, in Europe, were having tame cheetahs. It was a sign of royalty. And you can see that even in Kenya in 1930s, cheetahs were very popular pets. And nowadays in Emirates. And at the same time, cheetahs are hunted. They have been hunted and they're still hunted even now. Basically, why it's important to save cheetahs. Why cheetahs in my life? First of all, if we look onto their home range, previous range of cheetahs, which is gray color, in Asia and in Africa, you can see that they were occupying huge areas. But now these red dots are the remaining cheetah small populations. And in the beginning of 20th century, just imagine, there were more than 100 cheetahs all over the world, in Africa and in Asia. But in the end of the same century, only 15,000. Now we have around 7,000 cheetahs in the wild. It's nothing. And actually population all over the world is going down every day. So if we don't save cheetahs now, probably in 50 years, they might be not here. What is interesting, apart from 5 identified subspecies of cheetahs, 3 have genetic difference. In 2011, there was a research showing that there are 3 genetically different really cheetahs. It's Asiatic cheetah, Acinonyx ebatus venaticus, Acinonyx ebatus ubatus from Southern Africa, and from the Middle Africa, Acinonyx ebatus semiringi. So this gives really good hope. Basically, the biggest cheetahs population are in the Southern Africa, Botswana, Zimbabwe, and South Africa, and Namibia, and in Eastern Africa, which is Kenya and Tanzania. And the major problems which cheetahs experience all over the world is loss of habitat. Of course, we take over the land, not only of cheetahs, but of other species. And home range of cheetahs is really shrinking every year, every month. Diseases, accidental snaring, like you can see in Tanzania on the bottom photo. Snares are set up for other animals, but sometimes cheetahs die in them. Trophy hunting and illegal trade, which is really, really high. And accidental road kills, like this cheetah, which is on the left-hand photo, was hit by the car in Kenya. She was pregnant with 6 cubs. So basically, each individual really matters for the survival of the species. Our study area, we'll be talking today about Mara side, because that's where we conduct behavioral observations, which really help us to understand survival strategies of these animals. Because Mara is actually a highly human habitated area, and cheetahs have to survive there. And our study area mainly is in the reserve and some conservancies around. There's a big difference between management of the reserve and conservancies, and that really affects cheetah numbers and cheetah movement too. So basically, if we look into the cheetah population, which we are monitoring from 2011 to date, we can see that it's not stable, it's fluctuating. Some years we have more cheetahs, some years less. It's because of some diseases, predator attacks, and also recruitment, which means that some cheetahs, for example, in 2017, 10 cheetahs raised 23 cubs to independence, which was really great addition to the database, because we don't count cubs. Any day something can happen to them. Only when they separate from the mothers, that's the day when we add them to the database. So general problems which cheetahs experience, for example, in the Mara. First of all, I can tell that in every area, in each country, in each sub-area, cheetahs adapt to certain circumstances and environment. So for example, we'll be talking about the Mara. What do they experience? First of all, All animals actually can chase cheetahs from the shade or even from the kills. Amazingly, not only baboons take meat from the cheetahs, but also warthogs. They sometimes chase cheetahs, especially with small cubs. You can see that even water bugs, antelopes chasing cheetahs. And hyenas, they actually affect cheetah survival because they eat cubs and they take away kills from cheetahs, which means that if cheetah is nursing and she's losing food for a week, she will lose the milk and cubs will die. Leopards also attack cheetahs, and this unfortunate female who we call Sidai, which means beautiful, she was sharing area with this male leopard for 10 years. But one day something happened and she lost her vigilance. She was killed. He was eating her up on a tree for 5 days. So that's a nature. Lions cause lots of problems because they kill cheetahs, cubs and adults, but they don't eat them. And unfortunately, some cheetahs suffer, let's say, because so some cheetahs die, like small cubs, middle-sized cubs, middle-aged cubs, and also adults. For example, on the right and down photo, there is a male who came to mate with a female. There were actually 11 cheetah males around one female within 3 days. And we found him in the morning killed by a lion. You can see that his head is in blood, because that's how lions kill. They actually crack the skull of a cheetah. And according to the posture, the cheetah was really suffering. So other problems cheetahs experience are some diseases, conditions, like, for example, viral infections, sarcoptic mange, and some fatal injuries. But what is amazing, cheetahs really can survive and heal themselves. There's no need for interference, because even from mange, even from the last stage of mange, cheetahs sometimes recover. And you can see on the bottom, female who had 4 cubs came from Tanzania with her cubs with such a very fresh and long and deep wound. But fortunately enough, she survived and she recovered. Within 2 months, you can see, now you can see only the small scar. Another problems which cheetahs experience are uncontrolled fire. For example, cheetah, on the down photo, there's a cheetah who gave birth in ravine, and then one day fire came from the side of Tanzania, and we had to stop this fire. Fortunately enough, cheetahs survived, but cubs were too small to move, because you can see when cheetah is choosing the place for giving the birth, she is actually when cheetah is looking for the safe place for the birth, to give a birth, she considered to stay there for at least 1.5 months. So you can see the grass was very tall. In this case, grass, of course, was burnt. And despite the fact that cubs survived in the ravine, when mother started moving from that area, she was losing them one by one. But fortunately, she raised 1 cub, which was really good, because basically survival rate is very low. Another adaptation, very large number of cubs. It's said to be compensation for the high cubs mortality. We recorded female with 7 cubs. And these are types of dens. You see, cheetahs don't build actually any den. They just give birth in the patch of grass or in the bush, in ravines, and that's where they're more successful actually. As I pointed out, cheetah survival rate is very low. 76% almost of cubs are dying because of predation within the first 3 months of age. That's why those cheetahs who give birth, for example, in the territory of the reserve, we are trying to protect the dens, and even we don't go there. So it's very vulnerable period for cubs. And we're waiting for the time when female will show up with cubs. But with rangers, we close these areas pretty far away from the den and waiting for the cubs to show up. Unfortunately, sometimes we find out that some not careful drivers drive over the sign, maybe intentionally, maybe not, but they ruin the road signs, or maybe pretending that they didn't see that. So that's really sad. So if we're talking about tourism, last year, for example, Mara, Masai-Mara National Reserve plus Mara Triangle, which is part of the Masai-Mara National Reserve, met 400,000 visitors. Because tourists are coming to the Mara every day, and even during the low season, it's really interesting thing that we found out that basically for cheetahs in Masai-Mara, it's better to be adopted to cars, tolerant, but not dependent on cars. Because sometimes we have our cheetahs, I mean those who mostly residential cheetahs in the Mara or in Kenya, who can easily cross the road in between the cars when they're not moving. But cheetahs who are coming from Serengeti with cubs or just males who are coming to mate with the females, they get stressed. They can't come closer than 200 meters, 100 meters to cars. And by that, they lose opportunity to hunt successfully, to breed successfully. Or for females, it's very difficult to raise cubs. They're really stressed. But cheetahs in the Mara really got adopted to the vehicles. And some of them used to use vehicles as a shade or protection or even observation points. What we found out that some cheetah females got so much dependent on cars that they would teach their cubs to go under the car when they needed a shade, or they go up a car to observe their territory, and also go behind the car when they want to hide or hunt. But when these cheetah cubs grow up, they might come across some visitors who won't provide them this. And cheetahs might lose life because they won't know how to adopt to live by themselves. And also, when cheetahs climb elevated objects, they mark them. And this marking is a message meant to another cheetah. And it's a very important message because, for example, female can mark a territory showing that she's ready for mating. Males marking territory showing that they're owners of this particular area. So when the cub is gone with a message, it means that other cheetahs will never get it. And again, it affects cheetah interaction. Also, cars are not really proper objects for climbing. And we had a couple of times when guides, for example, were tired of cheetahs sleeping up on a rope, they started driving and cheetah would fall down. And of course, they would start limping after that, which is not good too. So my personal opinion is that it's not actually good for cheetahs to be too much habituated to humans. And one of the proof of that was behavior of one of the cheetahs, which you see on the left-hand photo, which is standing on the wheel. It's a son of the female who's sitting up on the roof. His name was Balo, which means a wing. Several months later, after mother left him, we found him in a very remote area where there are no tourists at all. And he was really weird because at that time, he would never let car to come closer than for 60 meters. And if car would follow the cheetah would start rolling intensively. This is kind of a placing behavior, which cheetahs actually display in discomfort. Or it would start biting its tail. That's reverse aggression. You know, when we're, for example, irritated by someone or something, we break some objects or we scratch ourselves. Cheetahs, like other wildlife, birds and animals, start eating themselves. Birds in captivity, like parrots, used to pull feathers from their chest. And animals in the zoo actually start eating the tail from the tip to the base. It's not curable unless you absolutely take away the reason of the stress, and that can help animal to recover. So this was the first time when we ever observed behavior of the cheetah like that. Very common for captive animals, but not very common, I would say very rare for the wild. So this cheetah became totally intolerant to visitors. He learned his lesson. Probably had some very negative experience. Here actually situation. Sometimes visitors can see a group of cheetahs, for example, female with cubs or adult males, and they follow at a very short distance, follow for better photos. And what happens, they can see the cheetahs start playing. But actually, if you look very attentively, it's not a game, it's not a play, because cheetahs start aggressively attacking each other. It's again reverse aggression. Or you can maybe see reaction like that. Cheetah stands up and walks away and then starts rolling intensively, then walks away and again starts rolling. This is replacement behavior. So actually in this graph from one of my papers, I show how cheetahs react to the distance. So basically, if visitors are staying beyond 25-30 meters, cheetahs don't display any discomfort. When you come closer, they start to being very, very irritated and they change behavior a lot. But at the distance between 8 and 5 meters, they actually freeze. They cannot absolutely move. It's you can see it even in other animals. We've seen it in buffaloes and other species. So it doesn't mean that cheetah is happy to see visitors that close. It means that it's just absolutely not happy. And when visitors are coming closer, cheetah starts moving, running, for example, away. So that's why we actually support the idea of the park rules of the distance of 25 meters. It's optimal. Also, what was interesting, in 1979, David Burney spent 17 months in the Mara, and he found maximum number of cars, 6. And he was really concerned that if tourism will grow in the Mara, cheetah population will decline. But then when we came to start working with cheetahs and studying their behavior in 2002, we found 23 cars around simultaneously, around one family. And cheetahs were still there. In 2012, there were 63 vehicles around the cheetah, and it was ridiculous, really, because you can imagine people are shouting, they're trying to take better photos, they're climbing cars, so it's a lot of disturbance. And that's why, together with park authorities and Naroq County government, we invented several new rules. And some of these rules were about no wild cats allowed under the in the car or on the car, and also some other rules. By that, number of simultaneously or following cheetah cars dropped to 16. It was in 2015 when we invented these rules. You can see the sparkles which were printed and were in all gates and airstrips of the Maasai-Mara National Reserve. But then we got a coalition of five males, and these 5 males attract so much attention. They became stars, and everybody, of course, wanted to take good photos. And again, now it's a bit difficult. So right now we're working with Naroq County Council we're working with Naroq County officials on the new park rules, which will actually cover those types of behavior of tourists and guides, which will help not to disturb animals. So basically, that's why when we started working in the Mara, I realized that actually it's not possible for researchers to do anything alone. We have to be one team. So we're working with all the rangers of the Masai-Mara National Reserve and surrounding conservancies, and we actually we conduct workshops for the guides and for the rangers, and update them with information about not only general cheetahs, but about particular cheetahs of the reserve and surrounding conservancies, because cheetahs move a lot. And we provide rangers and guides with the RAG spotter cameras with built-in GPS, so they can monitor cheetahs and other animals. And also we encourage them to participate in wildlife conservation by naming animals. Because, you know, when we came in 2012 to the Mara, there were only 2 cheetahs who had names. But then we asked guides and rangers, shall we name this cheetah? And what we use is something positive, like in Ma or in Swahili, local languages. For this land, we use some kind of description of characteristics of that cheetah, maybe character or features. And we're picking up very positive meaning and ask guides to or rangers to translate it or offer their own names. That's how all of them actually have local names. And also we teach them how to identify cheetahs. In 2004, I developed cheetah methodology of identification methodology, which is based on the front, back legs, spot patterns, and the tail. And it's widely used, so it's really easy to identify cheetahs by that. So we give lessons to rangers and then give them albums with those cheetahs, which you can see. Also, we always invite rangers to participate in every activity which we have. For example, if there's a dead cheetah, definitely we call rangers, or they call us, and we there's something weird today. Maybe it's because of the rain. So we
That's okay.
Not invite. What is the word to, so they can participate?
We invite them.
Yes, so actually, so together with rangers, we're taking measurements. We show them how to deal with the body and what samples we're taking. So basically, it's very important that local authorities know what we're doing and they support us and they develop special feeling for these animals. Because before, let's say all rangers and all guides are pastoralists at the same time. They have their own livestock. So for them, these animals are kind of predators. But when they see how many problems these animals experience in the wild, they develop special feeling. And sometimes they're calling Elena Miale, which means rays, because of her foot patterns on the shoulder, which form like rays or stripes on her shoulder. She's called Miale. Miale is just made a kill, please come over to see, or we found the den of the cheetah. So it's really great to work together. And for those guides and rangers who support our research directly or indirectly, we develop this certificate. What is interesting to point out is that, for example, comparably to Southern Africa, where all wildlife belongs to the park, for example, or the owner of the territory, in Eastern Africa, all wildlife belongs to Kenya Wildlife Service, Kenyan government, and parks belong to Kenya Wildlife Service, which is like top organization which is responsible for wildlife. It's like environmental ministry. And park can belong to Kenya Wildlife Service or to counties. For example, Maasai-Mara National Reserve belongs to Narok County. And each certificate which produced for rangers and guides, there's a regional signature of Narok County government official, director of Kenya Wildlife Service, and us. And guides and rangers really highly appreciate it, and it's also encouraged them. If we're talking about relationship between local people and predators, it's very complicated, because on one hand, local tribes, Masai, they're sharing land with predators for hundreds of years, and of course they know the difference between leopard and cheetahs in terms of their features, but they confuse behavior. But what is interesting, we find more cheetahs in grazing areas rather than in not grazing. The reason is absence of lions, because lions fearing herders, while cheetahs don't care about that. That's a big difference actually with Serengeti, because in the papers you can find information that cheetahs avoid grazing areas. So we were waiting for cheetahs to disappear. No, they just give way to cows to pass by and then they come to the same spot. Or they hide in the grass when they see walking people. But what is interesting, some cheetahs become really absolutely calm when they see big trucks or motorbikes and walking people. This wouldn't be a problem in the areas where, for example, local people are tolerant towards predators. But in those areas, when some livestock losses appear, it can cost cheetahs' life, because they should tear people actually. We had a case in the reserve, in the edge of the reserve, when we had a case in the reserve where two males and the female were in courtship for 5 days. And local herders could see them for 5 days, 3 cheetahs together, resting under the trees or walking together. And some days we found, like for example, when I took this photo, there was a big herd of goat and sheep, but there was no herder with them. But cheetahs were watching them and never even moved. But then one goat came very close, and then when saw cheetahs, ran away, and everybody followed. Cheetahs didn't run, didn't follow. Next day, there was a claim from local community that 3 cheetahs killed the goat. Next day, there was a claim from the local community that these 3 cheetahs killed 1 sheep. And when Warden called me and told me about this incident, I told him that I'm right now with one of those cheetahs. And since morning, they all are separate. And there's 4 and 2 kilometers in between them. So there was no way that they could kill this cheetah this morning half an hour ago. And I asked him to bring over this sheep, and what I found out were 2 big holes in the neck, very deep, very thick, and it's definitely not a cheetah teeth, because actually cheetah doesn't bite. It suffocates the kill. You can see small maybe holes, but not like those bleeding holes. So that was a fake. And you see, unfortunately, sometimes people think that if they see these cheetahs very often, they can claim for this. And in this case, I would stand for cheetahs. Of course, sometimes they take livestock, but not in that case. If we look into the typical home state or boma or manjata of local people, you will see that some areas are really not well protected. You can imagine that around the house, in the upper photo and the lower photo, at night there are some animals like goats, sheep, and cows. It's easy even for us to step over and to come over there. And when we're interviewing local communities, we found out interesting thing. Because when we show them different photos of predators like hyena, lion, wild dog, cheetah, and a leopard, they tell us difference between cheetah and a leopard. But then when we ask, do you like them? They say no, especially this one. And you know, in Maasai language, all predators, spotted predators, have the same name, Olowarokeri, which is spotted one. And when we ask which Olowarokeri is bad, they're pointing on the cheetah photo saying this one. Why? Because at night it climbs into our enclosure, picks up the goat, takes it up a tree. It's absolutely clear that it was a leopard who did it, and unfortunately cheetah was blamed for that. So that's a big confusion. And so you can see that 89% of herders actually confuse cheetah with a leopard. And of course we don't want anybody to be blamed or actually killed. That's why we ask local communities to tell us what do they need, how would they like to be their problems fixed, and then we connect them with those companies and projects which provide them predator-proof boma fencing or detergent light, which scary with predators. We are doing conservation education programs. My belief is that future of every land, any piece of land on earth, is in the hand of youth generation, and that's why it's so important that kids from the very childhood will understand the value of those animals. And several years ago in 2015, we together with Lakipians, we developed a coloring book for kids. It has many pictures, drawings of different animals which local communities don't like hyena, jackal, crocodile, hippo, elephant, of course lion, hyena, and cheetah and a leopard. And it contains information, scientifically proved information, but in a very simple way, and also pictures to color and poems. All the book is made by Kenyans, which is really great, and it's so talentedly made. We fundraised for printing it, and then so I was a supervisor of this book, and then we fundraised really easily to print this book, and for several thousand books, and then we donate them to the schools. And we hope to fundraise more to print these books because it's really important. And here we're conducting conservation lessons at schools. On the left-hand photo, my assistant, one of them, my Kenyan student assistant, he now became actually manager of the local conservancy in the Mara after 6 years of working with me. He's asking kids, so kids, tell me what cheetahs eat. What is the food of cheetahs? And one girl is saying cow, and he's writing down on the board. And then the other girl is saying sheep, goat, and then giraffe. That's what they know. So it's really important to pass the knowledge and to tell the difference between animals. And when we donate the books, or when we do painting conservation lesson, art conservation lesson, I'm not a professional artist, but I do art, and it's really fun to paint and draw with kids. We're talking about these animals, and I'm telling them different stories for them to understand that these animals, different animals, are not just aggressive, stupid creatures, but they have their right to live, and we just have to find our way to coexist with them, save our lives and lives of our livestock. And for example, so also we used to take kids for the game drives, because you see, what is the predator or elephant, for example, for the local kids? it's a danger because elephants is a walking death. It comes to the village and it crops, destroys the home state, kill livestock and kill people. And when they're seen from the car, from the guest car, let's say, when they see from the vehicle in the park, elephant crossing the road just in 2 meters from the car, without anyone noticing of people, and they understand that this elephant is actually absolutely peaceful animal. And when we see lions lying down under the tree and mothers are taking care of cubs, and male, for example, is in courtship with a female, they also change their perception about the species. And at first I was very, very serious. Only kids, no teachers, because we don't have enough space. But then when I saw the eyes of the teacher, I realized that teacher is a poor person. And it's very important for teachers to feel the same. And then what is interesting, when we come back to the same villages with books or with something else, we can see that kids actually educate their grandfathers. They tell them the difference. And when we show the photo, for example, of cheetah and serval cat and tiger, and asking them, when have you seen these animals? Have you seen them around? They say, no, these are not from here. Tigers are not here. Serval cats are small, and cheetah is the one which we see. So it's really great thing to work with kids and work with different people. Because basically working with animals means working with people. And actually that's it. And thank you very much. Let's save cheetahs together.
Fantastic. So, there's, I worked with tigers for many, many years, Elena. I've worked nearly 30 years with tigers, just as you worked with cheetah. And one of the interesting things that struck me when we were talking was that we've actually reversed what you're talking about. The way you said that you gave cheetahs names because it made people more aware of individuals and created a very much stronger relationship with the animals. We used to have names for our cheetahs, but the government came in, and these are all people who hardly know tigers, but they rule from the center, and they said that we could no longer give names to our tigers. So now our tigers, very sadly, are named T1 and T23 and B1 and B23. I mean, they sound like medicines or vitamins or something. And, it's just so sad. And I would, if you have any research on this or any figures about how attitudes change or any papers that you've written up or stories, I would love to share this with the government and show them that even in other parts of the world, it's not that we're giving the animals a human identity, it's just that we're giving them individuality and giving each one, the importance of having a personality and a character, so that people can recognize them and relate to them, and it's not just a blurred mixture. So that would be really important.
Latika, it's very interesting subject, because I remember that once I was giving a talk to one company, and one tour operator was really frustrated. He said, how can you call animal the same name as, even if it's the same name in Moa, for example, for a man? I said, because he's proud that by him there was a cheetah name. And he said, how come? It's a human name, it's not right. And I said, for the database, of course, we use numbers. For example, Rani, which means queen, she has number 8, F8. So when I was posting, you see, it's again about posting about publicity. If we were just doing research between ourselves, even now we're saying F8, F52, we know who we're talking about. Because sometimes when cheetahs go to the conservancy, they can be named differently. Some photographers name differently too, and it's very difficult. Sometimes one cheetah can have 3 names. That's why I prefer numbers, honestly saying. But when I started posting information that famous female Shakir gave birth to the female, we call her F8, people started complaining, what is F8? She's so beautiful, let's name her. And we said, okay, you're welcome, just let's name. I would say that if you are dealing with visitors, if you tell stories about these animals to different people, it's important to give them names. because people understand that they're alive creatures. Because as you pointed out absolutely correctly, that T1, D2 means something like not a live thing, right? Something which doesn't breathe.
Yes.
But names really important. Even hyenas, the big clans, and I remember how researchers were calling them brands of cigarettes or alcohol because there are too many of them. Like, one clan, for example, 175 individuals, but still they have names. Because again, when you have too many, again, it's easy to pick up a few, because that would be the animals which you're observing more often, or you have special stories.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting thing. At the moment, I don't have anything like that, but it's an interesting thing, and probably we should do something. It's very difficult to measure anyhow the attitude, because it's very subjective thing. You see, for example, when you're coming to the village, for example, to interview local community, I'm coming with a car where it's written conservation project. And of course, elders, especially elders who have long-term relationship, which is not nice with any predator, especially with hyenas. They look at me and they're saying, oh, conservation. I'm telling them, I'm sorry. Of course, we have an interpreter, the local person. I'm telling, please tell them there, which means old gentleman, please tell gentleman that I don't want to hear the word conservation from him. I just want him to tell me what he feels when he sees this animal, and I show the photo, when he is in the field and he sees this animal. What is his feeling? And person starts talking from the heart. That's what we need. We don't need just to click. We've been to this village, we interviewed 15 people, and that was the answer. Because of course they can tell you, oh, we love carnivores. Of course we do. We never kill them. It's not truth. And I'm telling them, if I don't know the truth, I won't be able to help you, but I would love to help you. Believe me, I cannot solve your problems, but I can connect you to someone who can. And if I know the truth, it will be easier for me. And that's why when we're talking, it's more personal talk. And of course, I promise that when I enter everything into the questionnaire, it will be only just for the computer. I don't even need real name of the person. We need just location of the BOMO, for example, or home state. Because what is important is that these people will be here. And I'm a guest.
Yes.
Sometimes they were even asking me, like, Elena, what is the difference between you and others? They're coming every year, they ask the same question, then they go. So because, I said, I have my PhD already. I came here to learn more and to give back. I want these animals to be here tomorrow. And I know that for you it's difficult, so we are happy to help you to keep them here. And of course, it means to keep people happy. Mm-hmm. And what I found out is that it's totally impossible to change attitude towards loving, like opposite. I hate these animals, now I love them. There's no way. People can tell, but they will never feel like that. And actually for that, when some visitors are asking me, like, how come that local people don't understand the value of those animals? I'm telling them the story. Imagine, just very simple example. Imagine that you cooked very nice dinner and you served on the plate and you're eager to start, and then you can see cockroaches which are running from all over around, and they don't even eat, but they poop, they defecate on your plate. What would you do? Well, try to chase them and kill them. And somebody's telling you, no, don't do that, because they're in the red list, they're endangered. What would you tell them? Okay, I won't kill them, but make sure they never come even close to my plate. Will you love these cockroaches because they're endangered? No, but you'll tolerate them. So that's what we want. We want people to tolerate those predators around them. And that's why maybe for years, local people all over the world kill different animals, but they're still here. For example, Maasai-Mara. Cheetahs are still there, leopards are still there, lions, hyenas. And what is interesting, all over the world, cheetah population declining so fast, and we cannot stop it. But what we can do, we can preserve those populations which are now doing well. Because if we lose even one single animal because of less attention, because of ignorance, that would be not fixable problem.
Okay, so the other... Yes, I mean, I totally get it, and I could talk to you for a long time about comparisons between tiger work and cheetah work. But the other problem that we have in the field is, we have even less tigers. I mean, we have 3,000 tigers. And one of the dilemmas we have is when we come across an injured animal or a sick cub or something that needs medical attention, this whole dilemma of whether we should intervene or we should not intervene. And sometimes now when it's absolutely necessary and that it's a fatal wound and the tiger can't treat it, for instance, it's torn up a flap under the jaw and it can't lick it and it can get maggots and things can be bad, then we do tranquilize and do something. So how often do you intervene, or do you mostly leave things alone? What is the policy you follow?
Very good question. And I answer this question pretty often too.
Okay.
There is overall policy. First of all, researchers should not interfere. The second thing, wildlife should be left for wildlife. But you see, for example, Maasai-Mara is not pure wilderness. In Serengeti, in Tanzania, which is neighboring Maasai-Mara, there is no interference at all. But in the Mara, there's so much influence made by humans by all means, tourism, pastoralists, and all other things, that it really affects cheetahs, because cheetahs are the weakest link. And by that, Kenya Wildlife Service follow the procedure. They treat sick animals. Basically, the best way would be maybe to leave those animals which are not suffering from humans. So the cause is not the human of the problem. And in this case, to leave the cheetahs to survive. On the other hand, sometimes, as you mentioned with this wound, we have the same things. But we have agreement with Kenya Wildlife Service, because our affiliated organization for our project is Kenya Wildlife Service, that if we get any information about sick or injured animal, we go there and we monitor this animal. If animal can take care of itself, for example, cheetah can hunt and it can lick the wound, it can walk properly or run, we leave the cheetah and just monitor it. And usually cheetah recovers. If there is, for example, a case when cheetah has cubs and it's a temporary, for example, problem, we can assist cheetahs, not we, but local authorities, rangers and park authorities. They make a decision. We as researchers just give them information, objective information. Cheetahs are fine, cheetah can walk, let's just monitor it. Or in this case, for example, there is a life-death problem. So maybe we should, maybe there should be assistance, but it's Naroka County government officials and Kenya Wildlife Service who make a final decision. We never have arguments about that. For example, some cheetahs have very severe mange, and by mange, cheetah becomes very irritative and restless. And of course, the hunting success goes down because cheetah is actually not resting well. But we found out these cheetahs go to the bushy areas and they hunt small rabbits, hares, and some small antelopes. So they survive. And then in a few months, we see them in a perfect shape. Also, sometimes there's a case, for example, when cheetah cubs are attacked in front of visitors, for example, by hyenas. And some visitors, some guides, for example, would love, of course, they don't want visitors to see such a terrible thing. They interfere and just stay behind or in between hyena, for example, the cheetah, and cheetah survives and everything is fine. But at the same time, what happens, next day you find the same cheetah female with one less cub. It looks like, even if we do something, nature takes its course. I would say that in terms of cheetahs, if lions are treated, if other animals are treated, it's important for cheetahs to be treated too in certain cases. But we are trying to avoid that. That's why I showed you the photo of the cheetah with very big wound, because when I looked at it, I said, oh my God, I immediately called Kenya Wildlife Service and I said, it's a big wound. And probably she is walking because now it's a fresh and soft, but tomorrow she will feel it. She made a kill and she fed her 4 cubs. And I said, okay, let's wait until tomorrow. Tomorrow she made another kill. So every day I was driving for 1.5 hours just to find her. And I had to make sure that I observed her. She was making kills almost every day. She recovered. That shows that cheetahs, like other animals, are really adaptable. But at the same time, they're very fragile. Because if some disease, like for example, we had cat flu, disease which really affected 6 animals and 4 of them died. But 2 of them were treated. Unfortunately, only 1 survived. Out of 2, again, it's about immunity. If immunity is high, it will be easier for animal to recover. But what contributes to low immunity? Stress. And stress is not just people. It can be weather, it can be lack of hunting, it can be a weakness, temporary weakness, which becomes a problem for hunting or something else. So there's a complex of things. That's why when we're observing cheetahs, even I feel very, very much responsible about that. Because, for example, my car for a long time was white, like in Rangers. But then I realized that it attracts attention. So, for example, if I'm observing a cheetah, everybody is calling on radio saying, oh, Mama Duma is there, so it's a cheetah, let's go. That's great, we found the cheetah. Mama Duma means cheetah woman, and I was given this nickname in 2001 when I started working in Maasai-Mara. And rangers and guides gave me this nickname, and I'm proudly wearing this name. So it's a big responsibility. When I'm following the cheetah, it's really interesting because sometimes cheetahs really understand that we're kind of protecting them, because some visitors are coming on the road and asking, can we go there closer and take photos? And I'm saying no, because this female was walking all the night. We found her very early in the morning here, but she was 10 kilometers away and she's exhausted. She needs to sleep, because if she's disturbed, it means that at night she might be more vulnerable. So no, if you want to take photos, please wait until maybe 5 o'clock, or because of the posture and sun, I can predict when cheetah will change position or posture, and I can tell maybe you can wait until like 15 minutes or 17, and then it will take some photos, and it works. So
fantastic. Okay, so Mama Duma. That's a great name. Tell me a little bit about how you use visitors to help you with monitoring. I believe you get visitors to give you photographs. How effective has that been? What is the system you use? Can we use it for other cats in other parts of the world, do you think?
There are different actually ways to work with visitors, because there's some applications and there's so many of them. But what I found out for people, it's a little bit difficult to, for example, to send lots of information. It's easy to share photos. So sometimes we're in the field and we meet some visitors and ask them if they have seen any cheetah. And they're saying, yes, there is a cheetah, for example, like 2 kilometers away. But animals move. And what happens, for example, there are a few cars and cheetahs lying down somewhere where everybody can see it. And then when the last car leaves, cheetah change location. It goes like 15 meters and disappears in the grass or in the bush, and you can't see it. It's for the purpose, just to be not followed. And by that, you can lose this opportunity. You never know who is that. Because what we found out that some cheetahs disappear for 1.5 years and then they appear. So basically they're there, but we don't see them. And it's good because we cannot consider them dead, for example. And so when we see visitors and they tell us that they saw a cheetah, I usually ask for the photo. If people have time, I have laptop with me and I just copy this photo. Or with a camera, I can take a shot from their camera because I can identify. If people are more interested or they have spotted something absolutely unique, for example, cheetah made a kill of unusual animal like water bug. It happens very rare. Or something else happened, like for example, fighting between 2 males or courtship, anything. By that, I ask for original photos, and I promise that I will never use them without the permit. And if I ever use it, I will definitely ask the permission, like written permission, with the name, of course, of the person. Like you can see photos, if they're not signed, it's our photos, but those which are signed are photos taken or given for this purpose. by other friends, photographers, and visitors. So basically, by that, the person will get full information about that cheetah by email. I give my card, and then the person sends the information, and I tell the story. And that really helps. Also, in some cases, when visitors contributed a lot of, for example, photos from the when visitors contribute photos from the previous years, it really helps to build pedigree. For example, when I started in 2011, like follow-up research from 2001, 2002, I met with one of the photographers who used to come every year to the Mara for many times, Federico Veronesi, and I asked him for photos, and he's so generous, he's so dedicated person. He said, of course. So he invited me to his house in Nairobi, and for 6 hours I was pointing to the photos on the screen saying this one, this one, this one. And he said, these are the same. I said, no, these are different. Subconsciously, you can read the difference. I cannot tell which is the difference, but I just know because I'm with identification for a long time. And he helped me to build pedigree, the initial one, because I got photos from 2004 to date up to 2011. Even now, he gives some photos. Then sometimes you can meet the person who is guiding for 4 or 5 years, or take as tour operator is taking guests. And he also has like 400 photos, like John Brissett. And he gave me only 400 photos, not 4,000 like Federico, but only 400. But I found 2 parents of the cheetahs, which I was observing. So it's absolutely amazing. And of course, for these visitors, for example, we ask them to pick up sometimes, like for special people, we ask them to pick up some cheetah and maybe give them the full story of the cheetah, illustrated with best photos we've taken. It's just to encourage them to. I haven't done it with Federico because, you know, he actually has so good photos that you can see I use them a lot. Even the front one is Federico's photo. It's absolutely amazing. So there's so many great photographers who are supporting us and supporting us with data, supporting us with sightings, and with connection of people, with fundraising. It's really amazing. Like Margot Rajat, she helped us to fundraise for the book for kids.
I'm a part of Wildlife Photographers United, and some of my pictures are in those books as well.
You're so lucky. That's great. That's great.
So anything to help out. And now that you've told me, I'm going to go back and look for my old cheetah pictures as well and pull them out and send them.
Yes, that would be great, you know, because if you have the date in these pictures, that can work.
Perfect.
I will be very happy to tell you who you saw.
Wonderful. I'll spread the word to all my friends who are also photographers and say,
a lot of work.
Yeah, no, we can sort them out and send them to you by year, and I can help because I recognize animals like you do as well. So, you know, I think
with tigers it's a bit more difficult. I mean, even to spot tigers. We had one lady who came to volunteer for a short time. She was from India, and she used to volunteer at one of the reserves in India, very famous one.
Ranthambore, Kanha, Bandhavgarh, Corbett,
absolutely, yes.
Okay.
So we had one volunteer from India who was volunteering at Corbett, and one time I showed her how I identified the cheetah in the field. Immediately she was pointing like, there's a cheetah. I said, where? There. And when she explained to me how difficult it is, how it's possible to find, for example, a tiger, I said, oh my God, of course, it's more difficult to find tiger. That's why it was easy for her to see cheetahs. That was really great. You know, she was so good in spotting.
Yeah, no, we're very, very easy for us because tigers is just, and much more than tigers, leopards. Leopards are just almost impossible to find in India because you take your eyes off them and they've totally blended the bush. And I've just been talking to 2 friends about snow leopards. Snow leopards are just, you know, they're just merged in the background. You don't see them at all. So it's amazing. Well, this is wonderful. Thank you so much. I have so many more questions, but I want to talk to you one last thing before our conversation tomorrow. What do you do if you find orphaned cubs? What do you do in the Mara if you have cheetah cubs? You know, if a mother gets killed and somebody finds the cubs, where do you take them? What do you do with them? What happens?
Another good question, very good question. Basically, we don't find orphan cubs because if mother is killed, she's hiding cubs unless they're sub-adults or they're like a few months when they're already walking independently. But usually, we haven't seen cheetah killed instantly in front of us. There were cases which were reported mostly about males, but not females. But we had a couple of cases when cheetahs disappeared and cubs were just roaming around. And visitors were telling us that it's the second day when they're calling and they're hungry. So we report to Kenya Wildlife Service and Narok County government, and actually they're taken to the orphanage in Nairobi. Why I pointed out that cheetahs can adopt cubs? Because maternity instinct is so strong that I would prefer to find the mother with the cubs of a certain age and introduce, because the level of survival will be still low, because but at least these cheetahs will live, and when they grow up they will have more chances. If they die, they will die naturally, because it doesn't, keeping cheetahs in captivity, for example, in Eastern Africa, unfortunately, doesn't contribute to survival of the species, because we cannot breed them here or sell them or exchange. And also all zoos in Europe and America have actually not Eastern African subspecies, but it's Anonyx vivatus South African subspecies. So these cheetahs are just ending up living sometimes well, sometimes not. They die.
You don't reintroductions and rewilding, because this is something that we're now talking of.
Yes. See, for that, what I can say, there are two very important things, and they're critically important. The first one, cheetahs have inborn skills or instinct of hunting. They just need to, let's say, improve it. But only mother can explain to the cubs what is danger and what is not danger. For example, mother is lying down and the tortoise is coming. Mother doesn't even move the head. So cubs know that's fine, we can play. If there's a monitor lizard, she's very intensively looking and she's leaving cubs a little bit to the side because she doesn't want them to be in trouble. If there's a snake, totally different behavior. If there's a lion, what to do? To expose yourself, to provoke the lioness or lion, or to run away, or to hide. What to do? Only mother can show. And the most successful mothers really show how to behave, and cub survival rate is higher in those females. And we can see it from generation to generation. Not all, of course, cheetahs, all cheetahs are equal. Of course, some of them better, some not. But a successful mother can spread more knowledge to her cubs. And by that, what happens, there were many cases in Southern Africa, for example. The cub can be raised and then released, but it can survive in the areas where the hyenas, but with lions it could be a problem, especially there are many lions. And what happens, cheetahs have to not only hunt successfully and not lose the kill, but also not to lose a life, because when they're in captivity they feel safe. For example, I observed two cheetah cubs who were supposed to be released in one place, and I could see that they behave totally differently from those their like sisters and brothers in the wild. Because in the wild, for example in Maasai-Mara, if there are two cheetahs, they will take turn in vigilance. One will be watching, one sleeping. It's very rare when the both will be flat. In that case, both cheetahs were flat simultaneously. So basically, if there's a danger, they wouldn't identify it. Also, those cheetahs who spend even with one person, human, more time, might be more vulnerable because they don't fear. For example, those cheetahs who used to climb cars or come too close to cars, they come very close to villages. And imagine that this cheetah is hungry because of some reason. For example, it's a little bit weak or limping and it cannot hunt for itself. The easy kill would be chicken or goat or sheep. And normally cheetah is supposed to run from people, but if cheetah is very hungry, even when lioness or hyena is coming, cheetah is trying to bite a little bit. By that it can be killed too. So there's so many problems. On one hand, you see even for local population, it's important to tolerate animals. But what you can do if your only treasure, your livestock, is attacked by a cheetah, you don't care if it's, a vulnerable species, because cheetahs should stay away from livestock, period. For that, they have to fear people. And that's another thing. So if you're raising the cub, you cannot avoid contact. So they will associate food with a human. We haven't tried, but it would be really good to try. For example, if there is a case, to have a big enclosure, and then to have in another enclosure some antelopes or rabbits or something like that, and just give opportunity for animals to do that. For example, in the zoo, when I was working in the zoo in the conservation center in Moscow, we had to kill rabbits to feed cheetahs, and I felt, or chicken, and I felt not really comfortable about that. I knew that it's a little bit, maybe sounds cruel, but I decided to teach cheetahs how to kill. And when you give the first chicken, it takes I recorded 23 minutes until they kill, because cheetah doesn't know how to do it. It's adult already, it was born in captivity, raised in captivity, fed with meat and bone, and now it has this, a lot animal. But then next time, when you give the chicken, it takes it immediately. The same with rabbit. With rabbit, it was 9 minutes, but 5 minutes killed. There was interesting case in the zoo. We had different cages, and they were separated by the fence, so animals could see each other. And I brought to those cheetahs which were treated, so I had to give them some medicine. So we gave them the rabbit body in the bowl, metal bowl as usually. And for the last cheetah, which I wanted to hunt, actually, I put the alive rabbit into the cage. And cage is big, it's like 9 square meters, and then also the enclosure, but she was closed for feeding. So cheetah looked into the rabbit, sniffed it, and then was looking at me like, where is the food? Where is the food? I can see this something, but it's not the food. I realized I put her empty bowl. Immediately, cheetah went for the rabbit, killed it, and put into the bowl, started eating.
That's amazing. What an amazing story.
So basically, you see, so about teaching of, let's say, hunting, it's not a problem, absolutely. Of course, another thing. In the wild, cheetah will go for inappropriate prey. Mother is sitting and they're war dogs. And mother will actually look what cubs were doing. Because cubs are hungry, for example. They're going for war dog. And of course, mother war dog will chase them. And in this case, mother cheetah will interfere and lead away the war dog from the cubs. And by that, cubs learn, okay, that's not appropriate thing, but let's try piglets. And some of them really specialize on taking piglets. One cub will run and attract attention, other will hunt the piglet. And the mother, for example, will attract attention of the mother war dog. So there are different methodologies. That's what happens to coalitions of males or females, because one would attract attention, a couple of them, and others are going around. The same females with subadult cubs. We have now a female in the Mara with subadult cubs, which are 6. And of course, to feed 7 mouths is very difficult for the female. So that's what she does. She just put cubs somewhere they're sitting, and she's hiding on the bush. And then antelopes are very curious. Sometimes they can see cheetahs and don't understand why they're not attacking. So antelope is coming closer. That what topis are too big for them, but impalas and grants and Thompson gazelles are doing. They're coming closer, and that where from the mother ambushes. So there's so many amazing things about that. Yeah. So with hunting. So just a last thing I wanted to say that actually with hunting, it's easier because sooner or later cheetahs will find out, especially if they were trained, given opportunity to learn, I would say, right? But with danger, it will be very difficult because you see, how can you explain to the cheetah that you're friendly, you're human, it doesn't matter if it's you or some other person. Humans, you smell human, you're smiling, you're walking like human, you're wearing clothes like humans, and then tomorrow you're just chasing me. So they have to be, that's why actually I was thinking that the best way would be to introduce cubs to another female. If I have a few animals, like for example, Iranian cheetahs, there is no game like that because they're so vulnerable, there's so few of them, probably with tigers too. It's better maybe to to arrange some kind of the area where competitors are less,
Yes.
or where there is a lot of food source. So food source is so abundant that it doesn't affect competition, because there are some publications about cheetahs that lions numbers or lion density doesn't affect cheetah survival. And I was so interested. I said, this is one phrase from the publication. Let me read the whole paragraph. And the paragraph was, it's about fenced area, about human maintained area where numbers of lions, cheetahs and hyenas are actually artificially maintained. And of course, if you have a lot of prey, there will be less competition. So you can't talk about real wildlife, real wilderness areas, and those which are managed by humans.
Fantastic. I could talk to you for the rest of the evening, but I'm going to leave it till tomorrow, and I look forward to continuing this conversation. Thank you so much, Elena. And
Thank you.
There was a study conducted which looked at both clouded leopard populations and leopard populations.